Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little different today. We usually talk about productivity or history, maybe some complex scientific breakthrough. But today, I want to talk about something, well, something darker.
Yeah.
Something that kind of sits in the corner of almost every human interaction, whether we admit it or not. We're talking about cruelty.
We are.
And before you tune out, because that sounds like a massive downer, stick with me. Because the source we're covering today, 12 Deadly Sins, Part 10. Cruelty, it just flips the script on everything we think we know about being tough.
It really does. It's one of those texts that makes you uncomfortable because it holds up a mirror.
Right.
We usually think of cruelty as, something villains do in movies. Or maybe that boss everyone hates.
Sure, the cartoon villain.
But this source argues that cruelty is actually a sophisticated psychological mechanism. It's not just being mean. It's an anatomy of a specific state of mind.
And that's the hook for me. I mean, we live in a culture that secretly, sometimes openly, idolizes the ruthless leader. The person who takes no prisoners.
We mistake that for strength.
Exactly. We think, oh, he gets results because he's brutal. But this text basically says, no, actually, that person is terrified.
That is the core thesis we need to get to. But we have to build up to it.
Okay.
Because the source starts by doing something very important. It defines the terms. And it starts by telling us what cruelty is not. And I think this is where most people get tripped up.
Yeah, let's clear the deck here. Because I'll admit, when I hear cruelty, my mind just goes to extreme anger.
Right.
Someone just screaming their head off. But the text says that's wrong.
Completely wrong. Anger is an emotion. It's a reaction.
Yeah.
You can be furious with someone. You can be shouting and yet not be cruel. Cruelty requires something else.
Okay.
It requires a specific intent. The text defines it as the deliberate infliction of pain.
Deliberate. So it's not just losing your temper and saying something stupid you regret later.
No, that's a lack of impulse control. Cruelty is different. It's calculated. And the text says there are 3 specific engines that drive it: satisfaction, control, or indifference.
Whoa, hang on. Indifference. I get satisfaction like the classic sadist. I get control, the tyrant. But indifference, how can you be cruel just by not caring?
That's actually one of the most pervasive forms. Think about it. If you walk past someone in genuine distress and you just don't care,
No.
you don't register their pain as meaningful.
Oh.
The text argues that the refusal to acknowledge suffering is a form of inflicting it. It's a passive cruelty. It's saying your pain does not exist in my world.
That feels uncomfortably familiar. I mean, we do that every day, don't we? We scroll past tragedies on our phones. We ignore the person on the subway.
We do.
Is the text saying we're all cruel then?
It's suggesting that the capacity for cruelty is built into how we process or, fail to process other people. And this brings us to the mechanism the source calls the unreal.
The unreal.
This is probably the most fascinating part of the psychological breakdown.
It sounds like a sci-fi concept. Break that down for me.
So to be cruel to a human being,
Yeah.
a specific, complex, breathing human being, is actually very difficult for the brain.
Because we're hardwired for empathy.
Exactly. Mirror neurons fire when we see pain.
Ah.
So to override that, to inflict pain for control or whatever, you have to perform a mental trick. You have to turn the person into an object.
You have to make them unreal.
You have to make them unreal.
So dehumanization.
Yes, but unreal captures the psychological state better. When someone is unreal to you, they don't have an interior life.
Right.
They don't have a childhood or fears or a favorite color. They are just a generic obstacle or a target.
But I see this online constantly. That has to be the best example, right?
Absolutely.
You get on Twitter or X or whatever, and you're not arguing with Dave from Ohio who's going through a divorce. You're arguing with liberal snowflake or MAGA troll.
They're not people. They're avatars.
Yeah.
And once they are avatars, once they are unreal, the moral barrier to harming them just collapses. You can say things to that avatar that you would never say to Dave's face if you were sitting at a dinner table with him. That distance, that stripping away of complexity, is the prerequisite for cruelty.
It's like we turn people into NPCs, non-player characters in a video game. It doesn't matter if you run over an NPC.
Right. They don't feel it.
They don't have feelings.
And the text lists how this manifests in the real world. And it's not just physical violence. It talks about the mockery of vulnerability.
Oof. That one hit me hard. Mockery of vulnerability. Can you give me an example of what that looks like?
Sure. Imagine a child crying because they're scared. A cruel response isn't just ignoring them, it's mocking the fear. Oh, look at the big baby.
Ugh.
It's taking the moment where someone is most open and defenseless and using that specific opening as the place to stick the knife. It's designed to humiliate.
And that's distinct from discipline, right? Because I can hear some parents or managers listening to this and thinking, well, sometimes you have to be tough.
The text is adamant about this distinction. Discipline is about correction. It's about growth. The goal of discipline is to help the person improve.
Right. And the goal of cruelty.
The goal of cruelty is to crush the person for the benefit of the punisher.
For the benefit of the punisher. Okay, that brings us to the why, because this
Right.
is the part I struggle with. If we're wired for empathy, why does cruelty feel so good to some people?
Right.
Or at least why is it so common? The text claims it's a form of weakness, but let's be honest, when you see a bully dominating a room, they don't look weak, they look powerful.
They look powerful, yes. But the text argues that is a temporary illusion of control. Think about the psychology here. Why do you need to dominate a room?
Because I feel small.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
It's because you feel threatened.
So it's a preemptive strike.
Precisely. The text diagnoses cruelty as a shield used to hide internal fragility. The root causes listed are things like shame, resentment, and a deep fear of vulnerability.
Right.
The logic goes, if I am the one causing the pain, I cannot be the one who gets hurt.
If I cause harm, I am not the one being harmed. That is, wow, it's tragic, actually.
It is.
It's almost like a desperate attempt to prove you exist.
It is. It's a way of proving agency. If I feel small, if I feel powerless, I can go kick the dog, I can scream at the waiter. Suddenly, I have an effect on the world. I cause a reaction.
I am big, and they are small.
Right. It's a shortcut to feeling powerful.
But it's a sugar rush. It's fake calories.
And it's incredibly expensive, energy-wise. I mean, think about the energy it takes to maintain that wall, to constantly suppress your natural empathy, to constantly monitor for threats, to keep everyone else unreal. It's a fortress, but you're locked inside it.
Which leads us to the cost. And I don't mean the cost to the victim, that's obvious. The victim gets traumatized.
Of course.
But the text spends a lot of time on what cruelty does to the person being cruel. Uses the word corrodes.
Yes. This is the warning label on the bottle. We tend to think the cruel person gets away with it.
Right, they get the promotion, they get what they want.
But the text argues that practicing cruelty damages your own machinery. Specifically, it reduces your relational capacity.
Relational capacity.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that means your ability to actually connect with people.
Correct. Empathy is like a muscle,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also like a valve. You can't really weld the valve shut for your employees or your enemies
Yeah.
and then expect to effortlessly open it up for your spouse or your kids.
So it all gets shut down.
If you train your brain to dehumanize people to get what you want, that neural pathway gets paved. It becomes your default setting.
So you end up isolated. Even if you're surrounded by people, you're alone because you've forgotten how to see them as real.
And you're surrounded by people who fear you,
Yeah.
which is the systemic cost the text talks about. The contagion. Cruelty teaches fear. And the problem with fear is that it shuts down higher level thinking.
Right. If I'm scared of my boss, I'm not going to pitch a risky, innovative idea.
No way.
I'm going to keep my head down and try not to get shot.
Exactly. The text says cruelty destabilizes systems. It fractures trust. If you are running a company on fear, you are running a company that is lying to you.
How so?
Because no one will tell you the truth if the truth gets them humiliated.
Yeah.
So you lose data. You lose reality. You're flying blind.
That's a huge takeaway for anyone in leadership. You think you're driving efficiency, but you're actually just blinding yourself.
You're creating a fragility in the system. It looks rigid and strong, like glass.
Yeah.
But apply the wrong pressure, and it doesn't bend. It shatters.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the disease, it's nasty, it's contagious, and it eventually kills the host.
Pretty much.
So what is the cure? Do we just have to be nice? Is the antidote to cruelty just softness? Because that sounds like a recipe for getting walked all over.
And that's the immediate fear, isn't it? If I put down the sword, I'll get eaten.
Yeah.
But the text is very clear here. The antidote is not permissiveness. It is strength with empathy.
Strength with empathy. Okay, that sounds great on a bumper sticker, but I want to know what that actually looks like. Let's play this out. I have to fire someone. They've messed up, they're costing the company money, they have to go. How do I do that without cruelty? Because firing someone feels pretty mean.
Well, firing someone is painful. But pain is not necessarily cruelty. Remember, cruelty is the deliberate infliction of pain for satisfaction or indifference.
Okay.
To fire someone with strength, with empathy, means you do the hard thing, you terminate the employment, but you do not strip them of their dignity in the process.
So no security guards dragging them out, no shouting in front of the team.
Right. It means you look them in the eye.
Yeah.
You treat them as a real person who is receiving bad news. You are clear, you are firm, but you don't enjoy it.
You don't get a kick out of it.
You don't use it to show the rest of the office who's boss. You acknowledge the harm being caused. You say, this is happening, and I know this is difficult.
It seems like the key word there is dignity.
That is the pivot point. Cruelty relies on humiliation. Justice relies on accountability. You can hold someone accountable for their actions without humiliating them as a human being. The text asserts that justice can exist without dehumanization.
But that requires a lot of self-control from the person in power.
It requires regulation.
Yeah.
The text points out that cruelty diminishes when people regulate their own pain instead of projecting it outward.
What do you mean by projecting it?
Well, if I'm angry that you lost the client, my instinct is to scream at you to get the anger out of me, to put it into you.
You're using the other person as a trash pan for your bad feelings.
Exactly. Strength with empathy means I hold on to my own frustration. I process it. I don't dump it on you. I just deal with the fact of the lost client. That is adulthood. That is leadership.
It sounds exhausting, honestly. It's easier to just yell.
It is easier to just yell. Cruelty is the path of least resistance. It's impulse. Empathy is discipline. And that's why the text insists that cruelty is actually a weakness.
Because it's the easy way out.
It takes no strength to be cruel. It takes immense strength to be kind when you are angry.
I really like the idea of restoration that the text touches on. The idea that we need to build environments where repair is possible. Because cruelty feels so final.
It is.
Yeah.
You are dead to me.
Yeah.
An environment that isn't cruel is one where mistakes are just mistakes, not identity markers.
Yeah.
If you mess up, we fix it. We don't brand you a failure forever.
Which creates psychological safety.
Which, ironically, leads to better performance.
So if we want to stop this in our families or our jobs, we have to reverse the unreal process. We have to re-realize people.
That is the fundamental philosophical shift.
Yeah.
You have to force yourself to see the interiority of the people around you, even the ones who annoy you, even the ones you disagree with.
How do you do that practically? Like in traffic or in a heated meeting?
You ask yourself a question. What is this person afraid of? What happened to them this morning?
Hmm.
You don't have to know the answer. Just asking the question forces your brain to categorize them as a human with a backstory, rather than object in my way. It restores the recognition of their reality.
And the text says that this recognition, seeing others as real, is what restores coherence to a community.
Coherence is a great word there. It means things stick together. Cruelty fractures. It breaks bonds. Empathy is the glue.
So when we see each other as real, the community holds.
And when we don't, it disintegrates into factions, into paranoia, into survivalism.
It really reframes the whole tough guy aesthetic, doesn't it?
Completely.
It makes the cruel person look less like a warrior and more like, well, like a virus, something that just breaks things down.
A virus is a good analogy. It has no goal other than to replicate itself. Cruelty creates more cruelty. The only way to stop it is for someone, somewhere in the chain, to absorb the pain and not pass it on.
That's a heavy responsibility to be the shock absorber.
It is, but that is what it means to be strong.
You know, we started this deep dive talking about how society idolizes the ruthless. But after unpacking this, it feels like we've been looking at the wrong metric for strength entirely.
I think we have. We've confused the power to destroy with the power to build. Any fool can burn down a barn. It takes a carpenter to build one. Cruelty is burning the barn.
So let's bring this home for the listener.
Well,
We've talked about the mechanics, the dehumanization, the unreal. We've talked about the psychology, the fear and fragility behind the mask. And we've talked about the antidote, strength with empathy.
the challenge now is application. Because it's easy to listen to this and think about all the cruel people you know.
Oh, totally. My boss needs to hear this.
Right, my ex needs to hear this.
It's always other people who are the problem.
But the text is a mirror. The seeds of cruelty, shame, the desire for control, the indifference to pain, they're in all of us. We all have moments where we want to make someone unreal so we don't have to deal with them.
So the homework is internal.
It is. Watch your own mind this week. Watch for that moment when you start stripping away someone's dignity, when you start thinking of them as a problem rather than a person. Just get yourself doing it.
And I want to leave you with a specific thought from the text to chew on. We talked about accountability. The text says cruelty thrives where accountability is absent, but it also thrives where accountability is weaponized.
That's the danger zone.
So here is the question. In your life, whether you are parenting, managing a team, or just arguing with your partner, where is the line between firmness and humiliation?
Yeah.
Are you correcting them to repair the situation? Or are you correcting them to make yourself feel big?
Because one builds the future, and the other just ensures you'll be standing alone in the ruins.
A cheerful thought to end on. But seriously, this is necessary work. It's the kind of deep dive that shifts how you operate. Thanks for exploring this dark corner with us.
It's important work. Be strong, but keep it real.
We'll see you next time on the deep dive. Take care of each other.